It was already morning the next time you opened your eyes. Despite waking up in an unfamiliar bed, you were feeling good. Your eyebrows pushed together in confusion while you sat up. The blanket pooled in your lap and the sudden sound of water startled you. Yawning, you turned towards Cove's bed. He wasn't there. Glancing in the other direction, you spotted him brushing his teeth in the bathroom. He caught your shuffling out of the corner of his eye. Cove smirked with the toothbrush still between his teeth. He pivoted on his heels and gave you a little wave before needing to lean back over the sink to spit. Happy, you stretched your arms high over your head and then twisted the knot out of your back before getting out of bed. Too real. Cove finished up brushing quickly and leaned over the faucet to rinse his mouth out. By the time you had your feet on the floor, he was back in the main area of the hotel room. He took a seat on the end of his bed. Oh hey! Cute jammies. Jammy top, anyway.
Morning, Molly.
Good morning. Sleep well? He added a playful grin at the end of that. Cove scratched the back of his neck, humming.
Yeah.
I did.
Ah, there's the bottoms. Nice. Very... I hope you didn't sleep in your watch, though. Standing up, Cove took a few seconds to stretch. He glanced over at you with an animated expression.
I'm really looking forward to your mom's anniversary dinner tonight. It's gonna be fun.
I think so too.
I mean...
This whole trip is great, actually. Being here with everybody is like having another chance at being a kid. We can do all the stuff we used to, and all the things we never did but wanted to.
The world is our oyster. If I said this, would he be like, you're already small? I need to do this just to know if he's gonna make a short joke. Hold on. Cove laughed, watching your face twist into a grimace. Curfews, needing permission for everything, public school, no thank you. He held a pillow against his chest and nodded.
That's fair.
Okay. He did not make a small joke. I appreciate you. Yeah, the world is our oyster, Cove. Jumping up on the bed, you stood in a power stance in the center. Yep, that's what I would do. We run the course of our lives.
We're in control of our destinies.
Exactly.
Well, we better get back to it, huh? We've got a pretty full schedule ahead of us for your mom's big day.
So much for being a kid. So many responsibilities.
I don't think seeing our friends really counts as responsibilities, Molly.
Fine, you got me there. After that, you and Cove moved around each other, busily getting dressed and ready for the day. Light laughter and chatter filled the air the entire time. Bags were packed and phones were sought after. You slapped Cove's butt as he stepped past you. 5 years together. Yeah. So tempted. So tempted. Honestly, out of all these scenarios, this one's the most realistic. Fine, whatever. I'm going with it. Cove let out a small yelp. You met his eyes with an impish grin and he shook his head.
Oh. Careful.
His shyness melted away as he put himself inches from you.
I might have to do something to return the favor.
You raised your hands in playful surrender. His mouth bent into a pleased smile. Dow, so cute. There was nothing else stopping either of you now. Look how far we've come. From up to the end of step 3. And now we're slapping each other's butts. It's great. In minutes, you were hopping into your ride and heading back to the neighborhood. It was another beautiful summer day in Sunset Bird. You couldn't resist rolling the window down so you could absorb it all during the drive. Cove sat across the seat from you near the opposite window. His gaze was locked outside, catching all the old landmarks the vehicle was passing. Your spirits rose even higher the moment you made it home once more. Eager, you hopped out of the car and let yourself inside. Your moms knew you were going to be there that morning. But the second you made it past the threshold, an excited scream nearly scared you out of your shoes.
Hi!
I was just about to ask, who are you? And then I read the name. Lee? Girl! You look amazing! You are incredible. I would ask you to turn around for me because, like, dang! This is my cousin? This is my cousin? Molly, you're here! And guess what? I'm here too! While your heart rate settled, a broad grin quickly took over your whole face. Since your cousin moved out on her own, you'd notice that she really found her own groove. She was still the same loving person she'd always been on the inside, but she expressed herself in new ways. Lee was strong, kind, and smart. Over the past few years, she graduated college with a degree in history. The last you heard, she was pursuing her dreams, working towards getting into the music industry. Can I get some warning next time you're gonna screech? I mean, this was my initial reaction, was like, yo, you look great. Thanks. She beamed, putting her hands on her hips. Lee gave you a once-over. I'm not the only one. Shaking your head, you laughed at the appraisal. Lee's gaze narrowed with scrutiny. Don't be modest, I mean it. You look happy. Lee leaned to the side to glance past you and meet Cove's eye. The grin on her face widened while she waved. Hi, Cove!
Hey, nice to see you, Lee.
I got in practically at dawn. It was a whole thing, but at least I made it here alive.
Oh, now we get to see Liz's full outfit. Very cute. Suits her perfectly. Why is everyone so dang cute in this game? Lee exhaled and slumped her shoulders to emphasize how exhausting the ordeal was. Behind her, Liz made her way over. She crossed her arms at the scene. I'm here too, in case you were wondering. Nope. I'm always wondering if you're there, somewhere. Nope. The pea popped loudly. You watched Liz's narrowing stare at your teasing. The demure smile on her face didn't change. You can't just say, hello, nice to see you, or you miss me like a normal sibling, can you? Can't you greet us like a normal person, Lizzie? Also, I said hello to you yesterday, and I told you that I missed you, or at least I hugged you like I missed you, so don't give me that attitude. Jeez, what a tough crowd. Still the same old Molly. I'm glad you're home. Another friendly shout rang out in the living room. It was as cheery as it ever was from the many times you'd heard it over the years.
Good morning, family!
Your parents both came out from the side hall together.
Morning!
Well?
Now that everyone is here, I do have a little something to mention.
Ma put her hand lovingly over her wife's. Mom leaned her head into Ma's with matching affection.
We're all still having dinner together, but Pam here actually made plans to take me out to brunch to celebrate our anniversary. Just the two of us.
Look at Ma blushing. It's so cute. They're so in love. Please, she hooked an arm around Ma's waist.
Sorry to push you out, but I'm sure this group of mature grown-ups will be able to entertain themselves for an afternoon. We don't need to find a babysitter or anything.
Totally.
Yeah. Have fun, moms.
Don't worry about it.
We can survive that easy. Enjoy your brunch. This works out, actually. An afternoon open means there's time to meet up with Terry and Randy. Hopefully they're free today. I want to see Terry and Randy! Your two school friends still lived around the area. They knew you were coming for your mom's party, but when or how you might arrange to see each other wasn't set in stone.
Sounds good.
Definitely. We should call them.
All right.
I have some people I'd like to say hi to as well. Liz had her cell phone in hand, ready to get her plans made before she was even done speaking. Arching an eyebrow, she then directed the next part at Lee. Would you want to come along? We've missed out on a lot of cousin bonding time in the past.
Yeah!
I'd love to! It would be an honor to hang out with you, Liz. And whose fault is that? You put your hands on your hips, pretending to admonish her. Liz huffed. Would you rather have spent less time with Lee growing up? No, but you could have joined us more. Liz's expression softened. She ran her hands down the front of her outfit, smoothing the fabric. You're not wrong, but today I'm calling dibs.
Excellent. It's settled.
She squeezed her wife's hand. Her gaze took in the whole room, ecstatic to have the house full again.
Today is going to be perfect.
Yes.
I think so too. I truly couldn't be happier with my wife, my children, and our whole beautiful family. It's already a wonderful anniversary.
There were ahs and sweet comments from the group gathered around the couple of the hour. Seeing how your moms were, you couldn't help but hope that when you got to be their age that you could be as proud of your life as them. But Ma's attention then fell on you, and the look on her face twisted mischievously. A shiver shot down your spine. Ma! God.
This is a very good time of year for a marriage, don't you think so?
It never ends. When you guys should date. Oh, you guys should get married. You guys should have kids. With snickers, all eyes eagerly slid over to you and Cove, shocked at her implication. His cheeks burned red. There was no missing the meaning in Ma's words. She was clear as a bell, and she knew it. I mean, I was hoping. I'm hopeful. I'm an optimistic kind of gal, This is exactly, I waited 3 steps worth for him to confess, and it happened, so I can be hopeful about a marriage proposal. It's not completely delulu of me to hope for that. But you stared straight ahead, trying to conceal the marriage thoughts spinning in your head. The last thing you wanted was to pressure him into acting before he was ready, and were very good at doing that. You caught Cove shyly rubbing at the slight scar that was still visible on his arm. Yeah, I mean, what else do you say to that, other than, His stuttering never quite reached full sentences. It instead turned into silence. Cove's brain was shutting down. Ma had sympathy for him.
There.
You don't have to say anything. It's just a little thing to ponder.
At that, Cove's mouth snapped shut. With a stiff nod, he creakily glanced at you. If it was only the two of you here, you got the impression he would have had something to say. For now, a meaningful look was all there was.
Right then, let's get back to what we were doing.
After that, you enthusiastically began setting up plans to meet up with your friends. They were both able to come see you, having kept their schedules free for this, and you couldn't wait. Hooray! Cove was also speedily sending text messages. Since you conveyed the plans to Terry and Randy, you imagined that he was letting his parents know about what he was going to be up to. The group continued to chat and catch up until it was time for your mom's brunch and your big meetup with your friends. Soon enough, everyone was out the door looking forward to their fun-filled afternoons and the dinner later that night. Sounds good. Once outside on the neighborhood street, you looked to Cove. He stood at your side with a bent smile. Terry and Randy were driving into town, while you and Cove were traveling on foot to meet them at an easier-to-reach spot.
Man, we really are kids in Sunset Bird again. Having to rely on other people who actually have cars to really get anywhere. Now we're stuck walking to whatever is nearby.
We're reverting back to infancy. Yeah, I would just laugh. Like the good old days. Cove took in the sunny skies stretching out above the two of you. He shoved his hands into his pockets.
Yeah, and at least it's always been a nice walk.
And there's always been places to walk too. We could have grown up somewhere with even less around. Cove cracked a grin at that. It wasn't so bad having to rely on your own 2 feet again. It'll just be sore tomorrow.
Let's go.
You bounced forward several steps and shot Cove a playful look over your shoulder. With that, the two of you began your trip down the old road. It was a casual stroll into town, and before you knew it, you were at one of the large parking lots in Sunset Bird. It was completely empty. Cove pulled out his phone, texting Terry and Randy in a group chat to let them know you'd made it. Someone must have answered already because Cove gave you a status update while still staring at the screen.
Randy texted, "I can see you."
Oh, The blare of a car horn cut you off. You and Cove both turned towards the source of the noise. One of the windows rolled down.
Hey, buddies.
Your friends had arrived, making a spectacle of it, as expected. Being the only car meant that they got the pick of the lot, so they pulled to a stop in front of you. The window closed back up, and instead the two front doors popped open. Terry and Miranda stepped out onto the pavement. Oh my goodness, Miranda! You look so cute! I love your hat.
Hi, Cove. Hi, Molly.
With a cheery wave, Miranda skipped towards you. Terry, on the other hand, walked speedily over to Cove, squeezing him into a hug. A quiet laugh escaped Cove, along with the majority of the air in his lungs. He didn't fight the constriction, but instead gave Terry's back a pat with a large grin spreading across his face. Terry! My goodness. Looking good. Everyone looks so good. When he let Cove go, Terry came right up to you. He held his fist up for you to bump it. You smacked his fist to make a turkey. Aw, I'd like to hug him, but maybe he's not hugging me deliberately on, like, Miranda's behalf? I mean, he's always been closer with Cove than me, so I want to try hugging him, though. Sidestepping his fist, you wrapped Terry into a big hug. He held you back tightly, rocking you back and forth excitedly. Okay, he was okay with the hug. It felt so nice to have your friend group reunited as adults. Look how tall Cove is compared to everybody. He's a giant. Good lord. Terry was currently a full-time lifeguard down at the busier beach a town over. You were proud of him. He'd helped a lot of people in his line of work. Miranda took Cove's hand and one of yours in her other. Her eyes alight, she gave you both a gentle squeeze.
So great.
I'm so happy to see you again.
Hey, Terry. Hi, Miranda.
He answered assuredly. It was clear that he was equally glad to see them. This reunion was long awaited. For a while, Miranda had been working hard as an assistant at a school while continuing her own education. She also kept busy running a small online shop, selling crafted knickknacks she made. Yes, this is my legitimate reaction. You look so cute!
Aw, stop that.
The pink in her cheeks deepened at your compliment. I mean it. You knew how full Miranda's plate had been for a while now, but despite the busy schedule, she really did take the time to put together a fantastic look. Miranda released your hands. Giggling, she eyed you both carefully.
So, how have you been?
It's nice.
Things have been nice.
I've been doing well.
That's cool.
I'm really glad.
Miranda put her hands behind her back sweetly, leaning forward just a smidge.
Of course, everybody already knew you'd be a success.
What about you?
I'm super.
Terry sidled up next to Miranda and put his arm around her shoulder. Sighing dreamily, Randy chuckled up at her boyfriend.
Yeah, things have been unbelievable.
He pressed his cheek against Miranda's and she let out a light squeak. The sight put an amused grin on your face. Your friends made a wonderful couple. They knew each other well and cared about each other so much. It was no shock at all when you heard the news that they'd started dating. The corner of your mouth curled playfully while you took in the warm welcomes all around. At times, it was still kind of funny how your group of 4 friends evolved into 2 couples. Not that you were complaining about it, you thought it was an amazing thing. Cove then pulled his phone out and peeked at the screen. He repeated the motion every so often. You raised a curious eyebrow at his unusual behavior. Cove was too focused on whatever he was doing to even notice you noticing him, which was even stranger.
So...
Cove, what you up to?
Is there anything either of you want to do while we're here? Any place you'd want to see?
I'd be up for a lot of things, but actually, there is something that I want to do right here.
Oh yeah? What's that? Terry poked at Cove's arm playfully. Miranda met your eye, silently asking if you had any idea what Cove was talking about. You shrugged.
I just want to see my friends.
Huh.
Cove, you're already doing that.
Well...
True, but I could be doing it even more.
You, Terry, and Miranda all turned to Cove with identical, incredulous expressions. His stare moved to a point past you three, and you heard the scrape of sand and gravel underfoot. Who are you texting? Someone else stepped into the parking lot. Startled, you jumped at the call of the warm voice shouting over.
Sup, guys and gals?
Oh my god! Okay, I'm not gonna lie. When he was like looking at his phone, I'm like, what if it's Derek? Yo, what if it's Derek? Derek! Derek is also huge! Why is everybody so big? Derek! Hooray! Running a hand through his hair, the person who crossed the lot was unmistakably Derek Suarez. He was beaming the whole way. That face. Hey, Derek.
Hi, Molly. It's been a while, huh?
There's no way that's Derek. He's too big. I know. That's exactly my thing. One of the... You know what? I'm gonna hug everybody. I don't even care. I'm hugging everybody. He was like crashing into a brick wall, but you wrapped him in a tight hug. He didn't hug you back at first, but when his initial shock wore off, you felt his hands around you.
I missed you.
I missed you too. His voice was sincere, and it made your chest tighten bittersweetly. You couldn't help but wonder how things might have been if you had lived closer together. It's your turn next, baby. Hang in there, BB. Whoa, you're ripped, whoever you are. Beaming, Derek scuffled a few pebbles under his feet. You shook your head amused. He was still the same boy you remembered.
Hell yeah. Thank you for noticing.
Hi, I'm Miranda Eckert, and that's my boyfriend, Terry Brook.
Hey there.
It's good to meet you both. I'm Derek Suarez.
He held his arm out for a handshake, and Terry grabbed him first. He floppily took Derek's hand in a jokey way, making him grin. Miranda went after, and instead politely shook his hand. Derek's expression softened immediately. You had a good feeling that everyone would get along really well. Cove, how long have you been planning this with Derek, exactly? Cove put himself next to Derek. Happily, he clapped a hand on his friend's shoulder.
Hi, thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Of course. Thanks for inviting me.
Sheepishly, Cove looked back at you and the others. That's when it clicked in your mind. It wasn't his parents that he was texting earlier. It was Derek the entire time. It was Derek all along.
Derek is in town for a few months to help my dad and his dad with some work.
Well, isn't that just kismet?
Yup. I'm working on my own business thing too, but I'm still involved with running the scuba shop when it's called for.
Very nifty.
Humming, Derek elbowed Cove.
So?
But hey, we don't have to stand around here for my sake. What's the plan?
Let's hit the town. Eager to get going, everyone piled into Terry's car. The rest of the afternoon was spent visiting spots all over Sunset Bird, laughing and reminiscing the whole way. Once it started to get late, Terry brought you and Cove back to the neighborhood. You didn't have to walk there after all. You didn't get out until promises were made to see each other again before your trip ended. Absolutely. Side by side, you and Cove stood in the street and waved at the car as it drove away. Terry tapped the horn for 2 honks while Miranda stuck her hand out the window to wave back. You caught Derek in the back window, giving you both a wide grin. Sighing, as soon as the car turned down another street, they were finally out of sight.
Well, that was one party. Time for another. Ready to go see your moms?
Always. Let's keep the celebration going. You shimmied a bit right there in the street for added emphasis. He looked at you amusedly and rolled his eyes.
Come on.
Let's go.
Spirits high, you and Cove crossed the distance to your house. It was almost time for the anniversary dinner. You'd barely stepped over the threshold of the condo before Maud descended, eagerly welcoming you both. The usual greetings were followed by questions on everyone's well-being, after which the conversation moved on to excited chatter about tonight's dinner plans. Cove excused himself to the restroom to freshen up before being on the move again.
Whoa! Huh? Whoa!
You gotta warn me! You gotta warn a girl before you come out looking like that? Sir? That's a look. I approve of this outfit. But when he returned, you were shocked to see he had entirely changed outfits. Where did that come from?
I packed it with me so I could get dressed before the dinner without having to go back to the hotel. Didn't you? Or maybe you have stuff still here at your mom's place?
No, Cove. I didn't do that.
Huh.
But your mom's party, it's at the country club.
And that's also where Liz took golf lessons. Not everyone is there in their Sunday best. This isn't like those summer soirees where they were having a real party. We're only going for a regular meal. Cove was as befuddled by your explanation as you were with his actions. He threw his arms up, desperate for understanding.
Seriously?
How can you not dress nicely for a country club?
I don't think the Cypress is as special as you've decided it is. You saw Ma, she wasn't in formal clothes, and she's one of the guests of honor. You realize now that whenever you went to the country club on a normal day, it was family time with just you, Liz, and your moms. Each time Cove came, there had been more exciting things going on. You never would have thought of that before, but his perspective suddenly made a lot more sense. I mean, it is an anniversary party. I think I would dress up a little bit too. No, tell him he looks good. Tell him no. Go buy a dress or something. Molly in the game, you gotta match this. His frown wobbled and his cheeks became far pinker. He looked down at his own self regrettably as he pulled at the cuffed ends of his shirt. He seemed more like a scolded child than a grown man dressed for the latest charity gala.
I thought she was gonna get changed while you and me were...
She'd need a whole lot more time than that. Yeah, it's okay. You look very nice. That earned you a sheepish smile, though he still clearly wished his look hadn't garnered any extra attention. How can you not get extra attention when you look like that? Cove's eyes stole a glance at the hall as if he was calculating if he'd have time for another quick change. Unfortunately for him, it was not meant to be. The time to head out came far quicker than you'd expected. I mean, like, they look nice. Like, look at this family. Look at this family. They look so good. Look at Cliff in formal attire. All right? Like, it's not like super fancy, but it's just kind of like dressed up a bit. They look good. Goodness. Cliff and Kyra swung by the condo to make sure everything was in order, and for your second surprise that night, Cliff was also in formal clothes. Cove's face excitedly whipped towards yours at the same time Cliff went to Kyra's. The two men pointed at one another.
See? He knows! Exactly, sport. Kyra was talking to me like I was crazy.
I'm so happy that at least one other person is dressed up like you. I'm glad. I'm so glad. The aforementioned Kyra placed a hand delicately yet dramatically across her eyes.
Clifford, our son only knows this because you are the one who raised him.
Cliff chuckled, his arm moving to scratch at the back of his neck.
Yeah, that's my boy.
The ends of Cove's mouth gently bent up. He truly was his father's kid, in more ways than even he realized. They may be the only ones in the group, potentially the only guests of the entire club, all gussied up, but at least they could now take solace in one another. That looked to be good enough for them. Good. All of the Wave Rider family, as well as the honorary members, Cliff, Kyra, and Cove, headed out at the same time to the Cypress. It was to be a perfect reunion. An impeccably smart host greeted you on arrival, smoothly leading the way to the set of tables reserved for your group. Once you'd all settled in, chosen drinks were poured into delicate glasses. The food would be coming out later, letting you soak up the atmosphere for a little longer. Smiling, your parents faced the group of familiar faces, all gathered here together to share this special day with them. Mom reached over and took Ma's hand, clasping it between both of hers.
Thanks.
Thanks for being here tonight, gang. Marrying this lady right here is the best thing I've ever done, and there's no one else I'd want to celebrate that with. Yes, we're so lucky. Not only do we have each other, but we've got such a large and loving family through all of you.
Around you, you heard people saying "aww" and chuckling appreciatively at the comment. Lee had clasped her hands tightly in front of her, her eyes shining. Your eyes met Liz's misty ones, and the affection she had for her mom's carried over to you too. Oh, look at this! Isn't that lovely? Hooray! Mom CG. You returned your attention towards the happy couple just as they leaned in to kiss, smiling all the while. The table responded with cheers and clapping, shouts of happy anniversary, and other congratulations continuing even after they'd broken apart. Mom beamed as she watched Ma giggle dreamily. The waiters reappeared, delivering delicious plates of food, and the dinner began in earnest. Both conversation and laughter continued to flow freely as the night went on, with the two families relishing the opportunity to be together once more. Eventually, after your hunger and thirst had been fully satisfied, the plates were cleared and the event began to draw to a close. Cliff and Kyra exchanged goodbyes with your family before heading out together. Cove gave his goodbyes to his parents while hanging back until your moms were ready to head off. You were getting a lift back with your moms. It was already late, so you discussed the possibility of going straight to the hotel rather than going back to the condo, but Cove had asked if they'd mind taking him back to the neighborhood. He'd wanted to visit it a little longer. Your moms had happily agreed. Liz and Lee were feeling tired, so your mom swung by their hotels during the trip home while you and Cove made the full journey with them. Riding in the back seat of your mom's car with Cove felt more than a little nostalgic. As your eyes drifted over to him, his head resting on the window, it was hard to believe how much time had passed. Mom stretched as she got out of the car, smiling over her shoulder as she headed towards the house.
Time to put my feet up. You two joining us?
Cove shook his head.
No thanks. It's your anniversary. You don't have to entertain me. I'll take a walk. It's never any trouble to have you over, Cove.
You alright with that?
Let him do as he pleases, Lonnie. But you better not stay out too much later or there'll be trouble.
Ma chuckled as Mom waggled a finger, her expression exaggeratedly severe as she reprised a role that, in truth, she'd never really played. Neither of your parents had been particularly harsh as you'd grown up. Ma joined in the act.
Don't go too wild just because there's no school tomorrow.
Oh, they're just hilarious. Laughing, they made their way inside, leaving you standing out in the dark street with Cove. You didn't even need to ask him why. You already had the answer for this. He wasn't yet ready for the day to end. Without a word, Cove began to stroll down the road. You walked alongside him. You'd known your destination long before you arrived on the dark and utterly deserted beach. There were no lights down here, nothing but the moon and the stars for illumination. The only sounds were the gentle waves rolling in and out and the soft sound of the footprints you left in the sand. In other words, it was perfect. Cove stepped out into the waves without a word. He looked up at the sky with a smile, then tucked his head down and began to pull his fancy shirt off.
How does he get more attractive? It's just not fair. It's not fair.
He tugged it over his head and lobbed it backwards, further up the beach and out of the reach of the waves. Don't think about this! Not now! I mean, honestly, I would be, like, totally down, so let's go! You followed him to where the waves began to lap at the beach and began to wade out into the water. Cove slipped his dress pants off and tossed them back in roughly the same direction as his shirt. He was down to just his polka dot boxer briefs. Oh no! I'm gone! I'm gone! to think, when I started this day, I thought the butt smack was gonna be like the spiciest thing that happened, but nope, here we are. Sometimes you were really struck by the ways in which he was braver than his younger self. This was definitely one of those times. He never, ever would have done this when you were both living on the street. But you also know he still wouldn't do it with anyone other than someone he spent all those years with. Exactly. It's so wild. Yep. Cove waded further into the water until it came up to his chest. You unfastened your clothes and left them behind you, just as Cove had done moments before. You didn't even bother to see where they'd fallen before following him deeper into the sea. Cove grinned as you approached. I'm gonna be in so much trouble with my moms when we get back.
I guess.
Yeah? Oh well. Think fast!
He splashed water at you as soon as the words had left his lips, giving you no time to prepare. The splash had caught you full on, leaving you spluttering and drenched. Oh yeah? Seeing what you were doing, Cove put his hands up for protection. It was no use. The water washed over him, leaving his hair soaked through. The two of you wound up drifting further down along the shoreline, chatting and enjoying the chance to be back on the beach that had provided the backdrop for so much of your childhood. Eventually, a silhouette of structures appeared up ahead. As you drew closer, you realized it was the old playground. Cove spotted it too and hurried towards it, dragging himself out of the water and heading into the park. Wet sand coated his feet and lower legs with every step, clinging thickly enough that it began to resemble a bizarre pair of boots. As you followed him, you wondered how many visitors this little park got these days. There were officially no children living in that neighborhood now. Okay, I was a bit worried we were gonna scar, like, the next Cove and Molly that were hanging out here in the middle of the night. Good to know. Cove gazed at his surroundings in wide-eyed awe. He didn't care at all that he was soaking wet and dressed only in his underwear. Crouching, he gently pushed one of the child-sized swing seats, marveling at it all.
Wow.
I can't believe how tiny everything is. Were we seriously small enough to use these?
Speak for yourself. He shook his head, unable to fathom just how little you'd both been when you first met, then walked over to the monkey bars. Once these had been a challenge for you, now they were little more than waist height next to Cove. That is tiny. Cove turned his back to the bars and hopped up onto them with ease, sitting on them comfortably. Hiya! It was strange seeing adult Cove juxtaposed with the baby playground, but you took your own place on the structure. This place had been something so exciting to Cove back when he first arrived, and apparently it was to this day. Cove smiled eagerly as you approached, kicking his feet in the air happily, briefly forgetting the low vantage point until the tip of his toes scraped along the ground. He continued to swing his feet, but with a little more care. You thought it was adorable. In this moment, you were home. It just so happened to be the place you'd grown up, but really, anywhere you could be with Cove was that for you. He had held a special place in your heart for so long, and so much of your life had been shared. You'd grown up on the same street, which had given you some common ground, but it went far beyond that. You had both chosen, from a young age, to share your life with each other. You wouldn't have it any other way.
Here we are again.
Here we are. The mood had shifted now. The funny, impulsive night beach trip with the spike of adrenaline that came from you playing in the water under the moonlight had settled into something quieter and more nostalgic. Cove leaned back, tilting his head towards the sky to admire the stars above.
Too bad I wasn't able to bring my surfboard along for this.
Cove shrugged dramatically, trying to lift the mood a little.
The dinner was really nice. It was great to do all this.
The smile he had when he spoke those words fell as quickly as it had appeared.
It went by so fast. We all came out here for the party, and it's over. Liz, Lee, our parents, we'll all be going back to our own things now. But what else can you do, except say it's okay?
He shook his head, a wry look twinkling in his eyes.
If I really never wanted to see things outside this neighborhood, I would have actually followed through with that pretzel plan. This place and these people, they're our foundation. It shaped who we are now, like making castles out of sand. I owe a lot to Sunset Bird.
His eyes crinkled fondly, and Cove's voice was gentle when he spoke again.
We had a good childhood, I think.
You're sounding so old. We're really lucky.
Yeah.
You're right.
He shook his head, sighing heavily.
All right.
His smile took on an uncharacteristically harsh twist. You had a feeling where this was going.
We better get home before your dumb parents, who don't know anything, get mad.
You had to laugh at the half-hearted impression of young Jeremy, the boy you met in this very park. He chuckled along with you for a moment before tapering off.
I hope we don't get grounded.
The jokes kept coming. It was very amusing to imagine that not only could your mom somehow ground you, as a fully grown and independent adult, but that their powers extended over Cove as well. As much as you were enjoying being back here, Cove was right. You had to accept that you needed to go now. It was late, and your moms were still expecting to see you before you got a ride back to the hotel. You and Cove hopped down from the bars, landing easily with the ground only a short distance below. Before you could return, you had some clothes to retrieve from the beach. You retrod the same path, following the footprints down to the shore you'd left in the sand only a little while earlier. Once you and Cove had scrounged up your abandoned clothes, you started to walk up the old path home side by side. Why are you guys walking down the road in your underwear? I thought you guys dried off while you were on the monkey bars and you're gonna put your clothes back on. You guys are wild. Never mind. Droplets of water slipped down your skin and fell onto the road as you made your way back to your mom's house. As you and Cove were still soaked and sandy from your earlier adventure, it was likely that you were leaving quite a trail in your wake. But you'd seen Cove's bedroom growing up. It was only natural for him. The air was slightly humid, already pleasantly dense with moisture that felt like a hug as it closed around you. Any damp footsteps that were left behind would take longer to dry in this weather. The signs of your adventure might even be visible when the sun came up the next day. You hoped so. You quite liked the idea of you and Cove leaving your mark on your hometown again, even if only for a little while. Despite being soaked through and mostly undressed, the balmy summer night prevented you from feeling any chill. You were entirely comfortable. Too comfortable. In truth, you felt warm inside and out. The day had been so lovely, spending time with friends and family, and... Your eyes drifted over to Cove. Cove Holden, your boyfriend. Just seeing him brought a smile to your face. Gosh. Yeah, we'll go with this one. Cove, you make me so happy. Cove turned to you, his eyes wide and adoring, and he bit his lip as he smiled shyly. You could tell that your words had touched him.
I feel the same way, exactly.
Yeah, let's... Considering our state of undress, let's reach for the hand this time. Cove gladly allowed you to take hold of his hand. Once your hands were entwined, he rubbed his thumb along yours in contented acknowledgement. You were full of joy. All other concerns and the day-to-day stresses of normal life were squeezed out by it. All you could think in that moment was how your life was wonderful. Every second and every day needed to end sometime, and that time had nearly come for tonight. You had to get at least some rest and bring it all to a close. And so, the two of you went inside to say goodnight to your moms, as well as clean yourselves up as best as you could. Your moms, both in pajamas ready for their own sleep, hooted with laughter as you came inside, disheveled and damp, and their teasing continued until the sun came to- until the sun? Yes, the sun came up. Until the car came to get you to the hotel. I'm so glad the moms were just like, this is hilarious. Cove stayed silent as he put his casual clothes on again, placing the formal ones back in the bag he brought them in. You'd given Mom and Ma plenty of material for a mock scolding, and you got a playful lecture about not getting into the water without bothering to change first. You just grinned at your partner in crime, feeling like a naughty kid again. It had been worth it. By the time you and Cove finally dragged yourselves to your hotel room for the night, the sky had been dark for some time and the lonely hotel hallways were quiet. The late hour made you feel a sense of fulfillment. You really were making the most of your trip. It was such an odd thought that this was almost over. You had settled into this new routine naturally. All the familiar streets and faces made everything easy to get used to. The two of you drowsily shuffled past an ice machine and into your room. Cove set his phone on his bedside table and you followed suit. You both started settling in for the night. The hotel room was a welcome sight after your long day. You noticed Cove rub the back of his neck and yawn. His voice was quiet and distant.
I hope the pet sitter is doing good.
The wish wasn't exactly directed to you. It was just a sleepy thought that Cove had unleashed upon the world at large, but you still agreed. I hope so too. Cove still kept fish after all these years. Delightful, colorful things in huge aquariums. He apparently spent a lot of time watching them swim. You had not been surprised when he told you that he found someone to look after them in his absence. After all, you also found a pet sitter. You were in the same spot as Cove with your animals. With no one at your respective homes, they still needed to be cared for. Cove's anxiety about leaving them hadn't subsided. Over the vacation, you had caught him a few times texting the pet sitter and asking about his fish. So cute. It'll be okay. Cove turned his head to you, the nervousness still coming off despite his exhaustion. I know what you mean, but you chose that person for a reason. You trust them.
But...
They're all fine. They just miss you. Cove smiled, appreciative of your comfort. You nodded in satisfaction. Mission accomplished. Cove yawned widely. He seemed confused at the magnitude of it. He groggily blinked at you.
I think it's time for bed.
You squinted at your wrist as if looking at a watch. Yeah, it's bedtime o'clock. The two of you got changed and brushed your teeth. In no time at all, both of you were cozy and ready to sleep. After that, you and Cove headed over to opposite sides of the room to climb into your respective beds. You tucked yourself under the covers gladly, positioning your pillows to be just right. Then shifted to peer over at Cove. He was facing you back just like the night before. Cove gently spoke, his words like a lullaby.
Good night.
Night. Cove's eyes fluttered shut, and he let out a contented sigh. Your eyes fell closed sometime after. You were not sure exactly when, only the fact that they were now too heavy to open. You felt a mixture of bitter and sweet emotions. You were happy to be here, but sad it was ending. There was relief that you would soon be in your own home again, but also wondering when you could return here. There were many more feelings swirling around in your head that hadn't even crystallized into thoughts yet. Paradoxically, you felt nice but also confused, but then also nice from the confusion. In the back of your mind, you realized that you really must be tired. Unsurprisingly, your exhaustion did not give you too much time to muse on your emotions, and in what felt like seconds, you were already dreaming.